Welcome to Conversations with Mr. A. This is your host, Anthony Abastilla, school counselor here at Chimacum Junior and Senior High. I'll be interviewing students, staff, community members, outside community members, hoping to provide them a voice to share their perspectives and insights. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Conversations with Mr. A. This is your host, Anthony Abastilla. This week I'm with junior student Jade Senter. Jade, thank you for being here this week.
Happy to be here.
Glad to have you. So let's get started. Before coming to Chimacum, came from other different school districts. Where'd you come from originally?
Yes, sir. I am a recent transfer this year from Port Townsend High School. I was there almost all of my scholastic career besides second grade when I was here. So I had friends when I transferred, which was really nice.
Was it a little bit of a difficult transition at first when you moved here?
Oh, yeah. Really? I was really worried because Chimacum's seen in a much different social scene than Port Townsend. It's seen a lot more conservative, and I, if you know me, am not conservative. So I was really, really surprised how accepting everybody was and how everybody was so friendly with me.
Speaking of which, I want to acknowledge you recently got voted I almost said prom royalty princess.
Yes, sir.
How'd that feel?
I'm so excited. I went from no social life whatsoever to feeling like everybody liked me. It's really cool.
Oh. One thing I've known about you, you came in here earlier this school year, registered in. I've always known you as a happy-go-lucky, friendly, extroverted towards others. How did you get that? Where'd that come from?
My big thing is, like I said, I didn't have the best social life back in PT, and so I knew what it was like to feel like a weird kid and like people didn't like you and like you didn't want to reach out because of that. So I make sure that I'm very boisterous and friendly so that people know that like, A, I'm a safe person. You can always come talk to me. I'm always here. But also, because then it kind of counteracts any anxiety I have. If I'm loud and I'm extravagant and very happy, then there's no real way to have negative views on me, except for that I'm obnoxious.
Well, actually, that leads to the next question is, one thing I've known about you is you always have a heart to reach out to people, to include them, whether it's forming a little group, just making sure they're included. I was going to ask how that came from that experience.
Very similar thing. I was the new kid at times, or I was just the weird kid, and it sucks. It sucks feeling alone. So anybody I see who kind of seems like maybe they're experiencing that, I try to make sure they come join, because they're usually the coolest people too, because they're quiet and they keep to themselves. They've usually got like the most loud personality. So
even the introverted ones?
Even the introverted ones, especially when you get to know them, like they go from real quiet to like this whole spunky person, and it is the best thing ever to watch. It's so great.
So one thing I was going to also mention is, of course, going through the credit checks, your classes. You are one driven person academically. How did that come? What come about?
I really didn't do well my freshman and sophomore year because I was online for a bit of it because of COVID.
The pandemic.
Yeah, and I flunked out of most of my freshman year. I didn't do very well. The only reason I passed was like pity points because of COVID. So when I got back into real school, I was so excited to have the chance to do well because I'm not driven enough for online school personally. So I got back and I was so excited to have the opportunity to be back in school. And I also know that like college and good grades are my only way out because I'm not from the most well-off family. So.
Now, was it hard to catch up? Meaning that when we went back to in person and we went through the pandemic, was it hard to kind of get yourself motivated to grades weren't the best. I gotta like.
It was kind of the opposite. Honestly, really? Doing so terribly before really pushed me forward because I knew that, A, now I had to make up for it all. All those low grades I needed to counteract and show that I could still do it. But I also really wanted to show myself because I felt really stupid when I first transferred. I was like,
How so?
Because I got low grades. I've never gotten low grades in my life. And then COVID happened and I was plummeting. So I transferred and I wanted to really prove to myself that I could still do it. That was the other thing. And I told my dad, I was like, I want a 3.6 GPA or above. And I ended up with a 4.48 with college classes. So I was very proud of myself. Congrats.
That had to be hard. You just told me that you're not someone who does online classes, which is, people have different learning styles. That had to be hard to keep up with things, be motivated. Well, did you find it also hard socially? Because unfortunately, we had to stay home,
Yeah.
couldn't even get there. I would imagine, as someone as extroverted and friendly as yourself, that had to be hard for you.
It was really rough, especially my mom's immune impaired, so I really wasn't allowed to go out and do anything. I was home all the time. So I ended up making a lot of online friends. I have friends all over the country, which is so rad. I could travel anywhere and go meet up with somebody that I've known for like 3 years at this point. So I used the internet a lot to make friends during that. It kept me sane.
Is it nice to have friends in person, though?
Yes, incredibly. So nice. I've never had better friends than I do right now.
Awesome.
I'm so grateful for them.
Who do you got here? There's some of your friends.
I've got a lot at this point. I've got Elena and Joe and Jaden and like so many people that if I list them all, I'm going to feel bad because I'm going to forget somebody, which is so cool. I've never had that much support in my entire life.
That's awesome. Next year, we're approaching the senior year.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're going to be getting you ready for
Yes,
graduation. Sir. What do you see after high school? Like colleges or careers? What do you envision?
I'm going to end up going to college, I'm sure. I want to go get my 4-year to start and then transfer to a higher, like, preferably Ivy League, but stuff happens, like a higher league school to go get my doctorate in psychology. I want to get my 10-year and try and...
Do you know which colleges you're hoping to go into?
I was looking at Berkeley at the moment.
Berkeley?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but...
Out of state?
Yeah, I really don't want to be in state. Wazoo Vancouver was reaching out to me, so I was looking into that for like the beginning and my like my English credits and stuff that I don't get from here. So I'd probably end up somewhere in state for the beginning and then transferring after my 4-year.
Okay. You might have answered this question already, but I just kind of want to elaborate a little bit more. Best accomplishments up to this point. What would you consider to be your greatest accomplishments?
At this point, coming back from COVID, honestly, coming back and like being able to function as a human,
mm-hmm.
It was such a like sudden drop off. I haven't been to school since 7th grade and I'm a junior now. So it was like a 4.5-year gap there of nothing. And I was so scared to come back. And I rocked it. I'm so proud of myself.
Well, you should be. Actually, that had to be sudden too. When the pandemic happened, that had to be a complete surprise.
Yeah. I dropped out in 7th grade because of anxiety. And then a week later, the pandemic started.
Oh,
I had already left like a week beforehand. And then the pandemic started. And I had no chance to go back.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Kudos to you. Seriously, kudos.
I'm stoked to be back. It's so much better out here than Port Townsend was for me.
Just from the experiences?
Yeah, just personal experience. But
sure.
I'm so happy to be out here.
Okay. I was going to ask what's some of your biggest struggles, like some of your biggest struggles and challenges. And I'm assuming was that it? Or did you have anything more?
The social life in Port Townsend, I really wasn't liked there. But yeah, that was the biggest struggle. Kind of over it now. It's all good.
Yeah. Most of your school career was in Port Townsend.
Yes, sir.
Then up to here.
Yep. I was here for 2nd grade and that was it. I made elementary school friends that still remember me.
That's pretty cool.
It's so rad. I have people come up and be like, oh my gosh, I remember. It makes my whole day. Every time.
That's awesome. Something to think ahead of the future. So looking at colleges, going to another state, it's going to be moving out. What do you see as some of the future challenges ahead? Like, I'm just thinking, this is a few years down the road, but it's like, okay, you're going to be like out of state, out of the area. Like, what do you see some things, like, how do you envision it looking like?
Well, I think my biggest struggle will probably be the state of the economy. Realistically, the cost of living right now is like, oh my God, terrifying to anybody. So I think it'd probably be money and trying to balance being able to have an income and still doing school, but also being lonely. The idea of living on my own kind of scares me a lot. I'm going to end up a crazy cat lady for sure.
Do you foresee yourself meeting new people and connecting?
Probably. But I also try to keep people at a safe distance, especially when I'm independent like that. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise, sometimes people can take all your energy. I'm real bad about giving everything to everybody. So I think when I'm on my own, I should definitely be focusing on like my career and housing and building a life to be able to then focus on having other people in it. Because I don't think it's fair to bring other people in when you haven't built your own.
That's fair. That's more than fair. When you mentioned give everything, so do you mean that with people, friends, relationships,
All
just
of it.
your
People pleasing
emotions?
to an extreme.
Really?
Yeah. It's all right though. I just want to make everybody happy all the time.
Hard to say no.
It's terrible saying no.
Really? Why is that?
I don't know. Probably something that I shouldn't talk about.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. How you feeling coming to the senior year? So obviously we've only got 7-8 weeks left of this year. Summertime.
So
What are you envisioning for the senior year coming up?
Probably pretty similar. I'm real excited, honestly. I'm pretty ahead on my credits, so I'm not going to be that busy.
Mm-hmm.
I can focus a lot more on like getting my college stuff together and getting my housing together because I turn 18 beginning of senior year.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I'm going to have a great senior year. I'm very excited.
Anything for the summer? Summer plans? Summer thoughts?
My baby sister's coming up from California.
All right. How old is your baby sister?
She's 4. She lives in California full time, and I only get to see her once in a while. So it's very exciting.
How long? How long do you get to see?
We've been apart for about 2 years. I've seen her once.
Okay.
So
this is going to be important.
Yeah, I'm really excited. She's here for 2 weeks.
I'm excited for you.
It's going to be great. Get some sunshine, get in the pool.
That sounds like fun.
Not the California heat she's used to, but she'll make do.
Yeah, make it a little warm over here in the summer. We'll
Okay.
see how it is. Now, how would you tell? Okay, so next year you will be a senior.
Mm-hmm.
You've been here for most of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give a new person coming to Chimacum, whether they're a student, whether they're a staff, a newcomer? What would you tell them? Brand new person.
Not to sound cheesy, but don't judge a book by its cover.
Okay.
Like, the people you would expect to be the most, like, clashing with your personality usually end up being so sweet. I transferred and I met a lot of people who seemed very polar opposite of me in what I perceived as a negative way, and then I got to know them, and it was astounding. They were such positive people. It was craziness. So my advice would be, like, don't assume anything about anybody.
Did you have assumptions at first when you first came in?
Oh, yeah. I was really nervous. I'm a bright-colored, like, alternative person going to a school that was known to be not the most friendly to that. And it was completely wrong. I was so excited.
That's awesome. Well, let's have some fun.
All right.
I got a thing called word association. So what that means is I'll usually give you a word or 2 or 3, and just tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
So it's kind of open-ended, random. So this one is a popular word. I always say this is the very first word every interview because people know this. Pickles.
I love pickles.
Okay.
I love pickles so much. My first thought was fried pickles. You know, have you ever had it?
I haven't had it. No, I'm not a pickle guy, but fried pickles.
Fried pickles are so good. They're like a pickle with a crunchy outside. Just yes.
Okay. All right.
Scrumptious.
Relationships.
Oh dear. My first thought. Oh dear.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. Funny people.
Robin Williams. Instantly.
Classic.
That man is my idol.
Some classic movies.
Yes, all of them.
Mrs. Doubtfire. Yes. That's a classic movie. Classical music.
My first thought was like headache. I played violin a lot.
Did you?
Yeah, I played violin in middle school, so now I despise classical music.
How was that? How's that experience?
I only knew how to play Lady Gaga. So
which song?
Bad Romance. I had
on the violin.
Yes, sir. On my purple sparkly violin.
If you bring in a violin, you've got to play
never
it
bringing it in.
No?
No, sir.
I'd love to hear that on the violin.
I do it on violin, ukulele, and guitar. I was so proud of myself.
You play the guitar?
I play Lady Gaga on the guitar.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Very specific.
Okay, no worries. Sports.
Baseball. All the way.
Your baseball. Who's your team?
Oakland A's.
Oakland A's?
Yeah,
right.
I'm an Oakland fan all the way. I was Raiders until they went to Vegas.
Not Mariners, though.
No.
Okay.
I
no judgment.
It's okay. I shouldn't say that too loud.
Yeah, no, nah, not gonna judge you on that. No worries. Hygiene.
Ooh, key. Very important. People, yeah. Take some notes, certainly.
Okay. All right. Favorite movie?
Princess and the Bride.
Classic. Yes, Andre the Giant.
Yes, Andre the Giant is
Williams.
Amazing. Fantastic. Inigo Montoya is my favorite character from any movie ever. I walk into my kitchen all the time and I'll be like, I'm looking for the six-fingered man. And then my dad starts talking in the voices. It's so great.
I love the quote, you killed my father, prepare to die.
Yep, I've worn out so many movies of that. So many copies.
It's classic. Favorite color?
Yellow, all the way. Happy color, sunflowers, sunshine.
Okay. Favorite literature book?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll always have a soft spot for The Giver.
No?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I read it the first time in like second grade, and I really liked it. Then I read it again in fourth grade, and then again in seventh grade.
For our listeners who don't know what The Giver is, can you briefly explain like who wrote it and what the story's about?
It's a book written by Lois Lowry in a dystopian society where everything is very, very hyper-controlled. And I read it through multiple different time periods of my life and different mental states. And I noticed new things each time progressively that related to like not only our community today, but also like the possibilities that could happen with the events that are happening nowadays. And it really hit home when I was like getting older and reading it.
That sounds like a really cool book.
So good. I love it so much. They came out with I think there's multiple. Sun is after it and stuff. I haven't read any of the ones after it.
I'm going to check it out.
I know. That's what I was just thinking.
All right. Well, any final words that you'd like to tell our listeners out there?
No. I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Jade, thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course.
I know you're busy. It was definitely a pleasure to have you for this interview for this week.
Just happy to be here.
Thank you. And that concludes this week's edition of Conversations with Mr. A, featuring Jade Senter. One thing I can say about Jade, she definitely has a heart of gold. Very outgoing, extroverted. She cares about people, and she is definitely a driven individual. See a lot of great things in the future ahead for her. Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Conversations with Mr. A. Stay tuned for next week for more editions and more episodes.